What is a good process for identifying and praising internal boundaries? Seems like an easy question, right?
You are not emotionally literate. You are not emotionally literate. You can forget about identifying internal boundaries. If you're not in tune with what you're feeling somatically and emotionally, and with being able to identify it to a degree of nuance, you have no chance. You have no chance. It will be frustrating for you, time wasting for you if you try. However, if you become more emotionally literate and you can identify the separation between one feeling and another feeling, or a feeling and a thought from a somatic sensation and an emotion, your internal boundaries will start to appear naturally and spontaneously. You won't have to do any work. You won't have to do any exercises. You'll just find that you can identify the boundary between these different states. You don't have to do any exercises. Become more emotionally literate. Become more emotionally literate. Become more emotionally literate.
That's the key, based on Richard Brene, as an aspect that emotional literacy and emotional granularity will help you recognize your boundaries, and your boundaries are...
Boundaries are the realization where I stop and you begin. I stop and you begin. I stop and you begin. Boundaries are the realization where I stop and you begin.
And this is from Atlas of the Heart, an expert. This is a short version.
Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Boundaries, the distance.
So if codependents have an issue with enmeshment, then enmeshment is not enough distance, not enough space. So then you merge with the other person's emotions and you identify with it. Or the abuser blames you for something that's their fault and you own it, because there is not enough distance for you to simultaneously be you and them be them, and have two separate individual lives in addition to a collective bridge. So the distance part is important.
Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously.
Not to make this
distance
entertaining because her tone is
boundaries,
so flat.
the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously.
But just
Distance
repetition, you feel some humanity.
Distance simultaneously. Boundaries, the distance that I can love.
Who's confused yet?
Distance. This is distance.
Distance is space. Space where
I.e.
you have...
Pankaj, you couldn't be any further away in New Zealand if you tried.
Well, I saw she's describing distance like this.
Oh, well, she
doesn't
mentally
strike me
knows
somehow.
it.
No problem with it.
Yeah.
Intellectually, she doesn't know that well. Okay, here's a larger clip. You can see how animated or lifeless she is.
The most compassionate and empathetic people that we have interviewed over 20 years, 500,000 pieces of data.
500,000 pieces of data. What did she come up with that many people?
Had the strongest boundaries of anyone we had ever interviewed. No boundaries, no compassion.
The strongest boundaries. I would say boundaries is this.
Boundaries are the realization where I stop and you begin. I stop and you begin. I stop and you begin. Boundaries.
I would think her boundaries is...
I'm monologuing! I'm monologuing! I'm monologuing! I'm monologuing!
Or...
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die.
Her boundary is about defending herself.
Screw you. Bring it. You think you can best me? Screw you. Screw you. Screw you. It's not
Don't you
protecting
hear her
you, it's
voice?
keeping you from being seen and known by others.
There's something in the tone or the tenor of her voice that's very, I don't want to say hysterical, but there's something in it which is fearful, I think is what I'm picking up.
She's
You
dumping
mean
her
like
terror.
drywall baby, kinda?
It's spray can, baby.
Like drywall baby, kind
Drywall
of.
baby.
She has that same kind
Terror.
of thing going on.
Yeah, there's a pressure and a fear, but it's a very young fear. It's very,
Plus, there's that kind of in the actual tonation is the fry. I wanna, that kind of that sound.
So the
I
second
found
half of
that-
this,
I need for you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go. It's about my need. I need for you to
the
be
melody.
wrong, and I don't want you to go. It's about my need.
There's a melody to that, and it's a very arrogant. Again, it's the sing-song sort of voice too.
Loud energy.
No, it's childish.
Yeah, and loud.
Children
But he
do
doesn't
that.
want to listen to.
And
someone-
pretentious.
It's a na childish sort of edge to it.
why can't we give her the benefit of the doubt?
She's had too much training in public speaking.
Here, this is the clue.
Fighting together seemed less painful than hurting alone.
That's a future teaser.
Fighting together seemed less painful than hurting alone.
It's the same argument as this.
I need for you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go. It's about my need.
And it's Amber Heard, but we'll study that later. So boundaries.
I just feel that she.
David.
I was just going to say that I just feel that she has this sort of clipped tone or this sort of, Brown of Boston. I mean, she just has this. I think it's just sort of her style.
Bring it. Screw you. 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 Bring it. Screw you. Bring it. You think you can?
That's her style.
It's her style. Yeah, that's just her sort of.
Screw you.
Stick.
Bring it.
No boundaries, no empathy.
She protects herself.
Why?
Because you don't have awareness of yourself.
You don't have awareness of yourself
if you don't have boundaries.
if you don't have boundaries.
And you have no awareness of the other. But since everybody here is a Brene fan, it's all about myself.
Boundaries, the prerequisite. I want you to listen to, this is Prentice Hemphill, an incredible teacher.
So this is my short version.
Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Distance simultaneously.
Now watch the Snooze Fest version, which is maybe intentionally trying to drown out every single emotional effect out of her body. Or she's drugged up. I don't know.
Find boundaries years ago as the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously.
She is a therapist, writer, and founder of the Embodiment Institute. Look how embodied she is in her sleepy, drugged out tone.
I was surprised it's not called Emotions Are Us. Or I can't believe it's an emotion.
Me and you simultaneously. And for me, that was a visceral definition of how boundaries can actually help us deepen our love for ourselves and for each other. And a lot of times we don't think that we can actually make those kinds of choices. So I think it's really important that we do. And boundaries are a felt sense. The reason why I talk about boundaries in love is that we can feel when we're really caring for ourselves. When we're really
Can't you feel the feeling in her tone and her body? That's
I'm gonna go and get a
stiff.
fucking bucket because I'm gonna throw up.
She's saying nothing. She's saying nothing.
She's accurate.
would know
The
a
words are
feeling of it
accurate.
bitter on the
There's
ass.
just
What are
no.
you talking about?
But exactly, she's a therapist, and most therapists, I mean, most people I know who've gone into psychology are they're trying to work through their own issues, and so this is her working through her own issues.
Tone of voice. Tone of voice.
It's my reactiveness that deeps
voice.
There's
Tone
no
of
tone.
voice. Tone
There's
of
no life.
voice. There's
And
no
she's
tone.
in the Embodiment Institute. Shouldn't she should have a bit more embodiment? At least more than Brene?
The reason that she's studying this is because she realizes this. I mean, again, looking at the positive side, as Jeef will say, she realizes that this is her own, what she needs to work on in herself. That's why she's trying
to. She needs to
and then
open
why
up
is she
herself.
why is she creating a whole embodiment shit around that instead of going to work? This dead ass fucking deaf tone
You
that
go
she
there,
has
fucking
here.
Nigerian, yes.
It's not that I don't believe her. Where is the fucking
like
compassion
she's-
to just say, wow,
Exactly.
I have
that's
more
what's
fucking
going on
emotion than
in
she
her
does.
world.
Explain, where is the fucking compassion? Where is the
Ladies and gentlemen, I present Anika.
Stop it, man. This shit is annoying as fuck. It's like this dead ass fucking talking about emotions and shit, and you're sitting still. It's like I can talk to a fucking statue and get more emotions from that.
Yes. It's putting you to sleep.
Irony.
It's hypnotic.
She's at a distance.
Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously.
either of those
Distance
things.
simultaneously. Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance
So she's
simultaneously.
creating a boundary
Distance
between us and her.
simultaneously.
You take this armor
we can
off,
learn
we die.
from the boundary
we die.
that she's.
We die. You take this
They're
armor
both
off,
Jean
we
Brene.
die.
I mean, this is
We die. We die.
an empirical
You take this
experiment
armor
in
off, we
boundaries.
die.
Shit.
We
You're a
die.
piece of
We
shit. You're
die.
a piece
You
of
take
shit.
this armor
You're a
off,
piece
we
of
die.
shit. You're
We die. You take this armor off, we die.
Taking care of ourselves. And our relationships should not diminish that. So what are the things that I need to enact inside of my relationship? What are the boundaries that keep me intact and in my integrity and allow you to remain?
Injunctions. Did you see the hidden injunction there? What are the things?
So what are the things that I need to enact inside of my relationship? What are the boundaries that keep me intact?
Policing.
There's something I must do. I must do it.
Not every problem in the world can be fixed with a regulation. Not every problem in the world can be fixed with a regulation.
Unless you're an academic or a therapist, then everything can be fixed with a regulation.
Not every problem in the world can be fixed with a regulation. Not every problem in the world can be fixed with a regulation.
Thou shalt not. These are injunctions. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't.
And in my integrity and allow you to remain intact and in your integrity too.
Boundaries, the distance at which I can love both me and you.
The distance that I can love me and you simultaneously.
She took out the simultaneously. See the difference?
At which I can love both me and you.
The distance that I can love me and you simultaneously.
I think simultaneously is a good, important point that she took out.
Yeah, I mean, being in the space of love. If
It's
you're in
a
the
different
space of love, you can love yourself and everybody else.
I just get the feeling of that maybe is it. Do you feel that we can learn from any situation? You said it a couple of times.
One, I say that this African-American woman is trying to work on herself, that this is her own issue that she's trying to work through, and that's why she's focusing on it.
Your problem. That's
Unaware,
your problem. That's
we're not
her
aware
problem.
of that. I know, I agree with that, but I'm seeing that separate from that, there is what we can, they're psychoanalyzing these speakers, and there is the content that they're presenting. And yes, we can make fun of this and their own issues, but I think they're separate from their own issues. That there are some, we can try to tease out some useful ideas or concepts, or at least launching points for conversation, regardless of their own limitations.
So we have to cut out the bullshit in order to get something useful.
Right, but I'm saying that she, for example, I mean, or we can learn
boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously.
Brene Brown is putting
distance
on
simultaneously.
armor, and that this woman is also putting on armor to protect themselves from whatever things maybe they realize it. I don't know how self-referential, how much self-knowledge they have or not, but they're putting on these armors to protect themselves, and then we can not.
It's not my concern. 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 It's not my concern.
Their cognitive, their discongruence, their cognitive dissonance between what they're saying and how they're behaving. We all have problems. So
because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider. Because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider. Because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider. Because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider. What are we talking about? What are we
just to finish that off,
David,
so would you say there's more value in getting at the nuggets of what they say, or there's more value in able to criticize the situation so that emotionally it lands better inside you?
I think that depends on the person. I think that depends on each of us. I mean, people learn better in different ways. People learn from example. People learn from words, writing. I mean, I think that's part of it. That's why I was saying at the very beginning is that whether you like some of these, Eckhart Tolle and these other philosophers, it's an on-ramp to at least start the thought process, the conversation. Hopefully one grows from that.
Oh, I didn't ask that.
No.
What I'm saying is, suppose there's a way to decipher the nuggets of someone speaking. What's the nugget? And the other one is to say, hey, this is not integrated, and this is not okay. This doesn't fall, doesn't land.
I just wonder.
Right, but it's two different.
I just wonder.
Let me.
Yeah, Pankaj is saying we're working both. I think, is that what you're saying, Pankaj?
Yeah, and I'm noticing that you are averse to one of them, and I'm just wondering why you might be, if you are.
No, I wasn't saying. Sorry, I don't think I'm. I mean, maybe you're seeing something in me that I'm not trying to be averse to. I think that there's something to learn from both, or all these different.
Every time we mock someone, you come and defend them. That's why.
If I tell you just what they were telling you, I'm just telling you, know yourself. Does that resonate with you?
As a guidance, yes.
It does. Okay.
Okay. Did that help anybody? I thought it was.
I'm sorry, you're not being helpful to me right now. Being helpful to me right now. I'm sorry, you're not being helpful to me right now. Being helpful to me right now.
We're trying to get to emotional granularity. Give some room for fights later, or make it something interesting, because...
I'm trying to have a conversation. I'm trying to have a conversation. I'm trying to have a conversation.
Emotional granularity. We'll try to pivot from there. This is her presentation of emotional granularity.
Language is the greatest human portal that we have. Meaning making, connection, healing, learning, self-awareness.
Dissociation, intellectualization, wordplay, also in the world of language.
No. Now it's just playing with words right now. No. Now it's just playing with words right now.
So precise language that captures the essence and the energy, that's a portal to meaning making. Academic definitions that are slightly off or devoid of humanity, I would argue that's a way of avoiding your humanity. That's a way of weaponizing your language. That's a way of...
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die.
Why? Because her map is this messy list of 87 emotions and these weird categories. This is called Atlas of the Heart, which is supposed to be a navigation map. How is this a navigation map when it's just a bunch of words and every chapter has like 3 paragraphs to describe each emotion? Or maybe 5. That's being generous. It's not practical. Like, this is a map of emotions. This is a map of emotions. This is just a bunch of words. Of which some of these words aren't even good. Like, hurt. Hurt is a weasel word. Which category is it in? We'll get into that later. Flooding, that's also a weasel word. That's my personal rant. But language is key. Emotional granularity is key. I would argue, based on Lisa Feldman Barrett's work, that emotional granularity, having more finer language to capture emotions and tones, you can name it to tame it, so then you can regulate with more accurate language. Let's see what she describes.
Having access to the right words changes everything. Everything. Language changes everything. Everything.
It can also gaslight. It can also be a way you please someone else to silence them and shut them down.
Shut me down. You talk, get your space and time, but you won't honour mine. You won't honour mine. Shut me down. You won't honour mine. Shut me down. You talk, get your space.
If you're using them honestly, and you're accurate, then it can be a way to get to know your feeling. Or you can use them with an agenda to soften emotions, to convince someone else, to look smart, any number of reasons. Then you're just playing with words.
No. Now it's just playing with words right now. No. Now it's just playing with words right now.
So let's see if she's playing with words or using it more honestly.
Language doesn't just communicate to other people what we're feeling. It shapes the actual affect and emotion that we're feeling.
That's gaslighting.
I will perfect gaslighting me. Gaslighting me. I will perfect gaslighting me. Gaslighting me.
How does gaslighting work? It's words that are twisting reality to create an effect in you or the other person. Language is a double-edged sword. It can be used to navigate complex emotional situations, or it can be used for pure emotional abuse to fuck up the other person's mind, or to fuck up your own mind, or give you a giant book of this list of words that's somehow supposed to help you navigate emotions.
So when we mislabel things, it changes our experience of them.
She even knows it right there. She admits it. When you mislabel things, it changes your experience. So that means she can mislabel her armor.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die.
She can change her armor into curiosity, wonder, love, and then you can invade people's boundaries maliciously with the name of love, wonder, and curiosity. But it's just your armor.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die. We.
That's part of the group's read of her tone, saying she's dumping her fear, because one of her core wounds is this.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You.
And after the armor's off, she'll say,
Screw you. Bring it. You think you can best me? Screw you. Screw you. Screw you. So much easier to offload pain than to feel pain. Offload pain than to feel pain.
So language changes reality. Totally agree.
Emotion granularity.
things, it changes our experience of them.
Emotion granularity is the skill set that allows us to understand our difficult experiences. Words matter. When we use accurate labels to describe how it is
South
that
African
we're feeling,
accent. Ugh.
we are able.
Oh, South Africa.
No, those bastards all talk the same. Very condescending. It's terrible. Awful accent. Terrible.
Describe how it is that we are feeling. We are able to transform what often feels like an oceanic, murky experience into something.
Oceanic, murky experience. And what does that turn into?
Into something with boundaries and a name.
Boundaries and a name. Having emotional granularity allows you to have boundaries and a word and a name, because apparently academics are alexithymic. They don't know emotions have labels. They don't teach that in therapy for some reason.
Boundaries and a name. Boundaries and a name. One of the ways we stop ourselves from being granular with emotions is when we default to forced false positivity.
Forced false positivity instead of toxic positivity. Let's call it forced false positivity. But she's going to relabel it too, because words are so amazing. Let's just add more reframes.
What I sometimes call the tyranny of positivity.
That's better. Tyranny of positivity. Toxic positivity has a better spin, but I'll go with that.
When we say things like good vibes only or just be positive, what we are essentially saying is, my comfort is more important than your reality. My comfort is more important than your reality.
Look at that.
Yeah, Tucker. That's
Look
Tucker.
at that look. After that finished, or shortly after. My comfort is more important than your reality. Did that?
It was interesting as they're saying that I mean, boundaries are always, maybe it's true, but they're always describing in terms of hard things like armor. I mean, she's saying like the opposite of this, murky versus boundaries. I mean, they're always describing this, and it always that boundaries are concrete. And exactly, concrete was the word I was going to use. Exactly,
they're rigid. They're not flexible, adaptive. They're not negotiated. They're not cooperative. They're these giant armors.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing in common for all.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die.
Finger.
We die.
The finger is amazing.
How do we get reconnected to ourselves and each other? The answer has two parts.
Two parts? One.
We need language that is as expansive as the human experience. We need more words.
Why? We just need enough words that are precise. Do we just need more words for more words so you can write more books? Culture doesn't have enough words from literature. Yes, we need more vocabulary. We're just needing words.
Right? The second thing I think we need is a framework for connection that allows us to get curious about what it means to connect, but
curious
also holds us accountable for
so you can punish someone.
How we connect with ourselves and other people. Holds us accountable for how we connect with
The problem I'm
ourselves
seeing with all
and
of
other
this
people.
is there's nothing actionable.
She's gonna yell at you. She's getting to it. She gives you that giant list at the end of the book. That's
okay. And wait for the actionable.
You can get that list. You can buy her product.
Yeah, David, you've got to understand this is about selling books and flogging products.
I
nothing to do with healing.
You want the lists?
I mean, she wants to connect by having a rigid boundary. That is really pretty cool.
I just can't get past the denim jacket.
I think David is slowly catching. I think David is slowly catching on to what's going on. So let's keep going. He'll understand.
I'll upload this into the chat. So this is the end of the book. The 3 skill sets for cultivating meaningful connection. This is supposedly new. So, 1, you need to develop grounded confidence. I would call this embodied knowledge. And I like the near enemy. So you gotta stop convincing people, knowing and proving. And having a embodied knowledge that you don't need to convince other people and prove to yourself. Prove to others, because you already proved to yourself. Because it's grounded knowledge. Skill set 2, practice the courage to walk alongside people. Being with passion, compassion, holding space for your experience and other people's experience. Versus controlling the path. Control freaks. Skill number 3, practice story stewardship instead of performative connection. So, stop fucking up your story. Stop fucking up other people's stories. Stories are sacred. Stop messing with stories to make feelings come and go. But she'll list it with much more complicated layer. These 2 steps.
That third one is really
steps.
Important.
All 3 are important.
No, but the third one is like the key to a happy life.
What? Story stewardship?
In the sense that what I've learned is really important is that we need to tell ourselves or create a story arc for our life, and how we steward that's why I'm interpreting steward, that we need to, if we create a positive, successful story for our life, that we experience more happiness, joy, boundaries, all this stuff. So I think that's, maybe I'm reading into it, but that's what I'm
Do you see what you just said?
Yeah.
What the result was? What the agenda of your story writing is? What's your motive? To get what kind of life?
Happy.
And what is happy? Is that a emotional affect?
Yes.
So you want the emotional
Why can't I
affect,
just be happy?
then you're going to change words, create a story that controls the outcome.
I completely agree. It's separate from reality. I'm not saying it's reality. It's definitely is delusional, but I'm saying that.
Now,
that's
do you see how that's controlling the path? You see how these pointers are totally worthless because they're impossible to do? You said this is important, but the way you defined it, how to do this, is controlling the path.
Well, yes, stewardship is control, yes.
No, she said controlling the path is a near enemy. This is
yes.
Skill number 2, you failed.
She's contradictory, yes.
Stewardship is controlling? That's what she means?
Is it a problem that there's overlap between the boxes? Does that does that imply that it's a contradiction? Or
which overlap?
What's the versus? That's a shadow side.
Control the path.
Control the path is where you control the outcome. That's called a near enemy. So it looks like you're holding space and you're being with a person. But you have an agenda to control the end result. You can't let go and let God. Because you have education. And you want to skip life because you're smart. And then I would say practice story stewardship is you let God write your story. Because it's already fucking written. Your soul has already imprinted your story. You want to write a story to get an emotional affect. That means you're probably running from your childhood trauma, which means you're just going to repeat it again. So you're still going to lose with the illusion that you're trying to get out of your repetition compulsion. Have fun.
Joy.
Yeah, but you can write the story without being fixated on the outcome. I mean, if you do it in this,
this is a
kind of Buddhist
truthism
sense.
from Robert Downey Jr. Sr. Anybody can act, few can direct, nobody can write. So you journal to just make sense of what the fuck your story is. Just getting your story right is hard enough. You want to write your story to turn into some emotional affect, that's impossible. No one's able to do that. Or if you're able to do that, you just deluded yourself into some story. Then you got to make other people do all the work. Possible, but then you're predatory, that's a fine alternative. So, why is emotional granularity important? Because some people have something called alexithymia. How many people know what that is? Oh, a couple of people don't. Okay, so this is description.
But I think I had kind of an alexithymia where I couldn't access and name feelings very well. And so
What's that called?
Alexithymia. And so by
Dr. Drew, someone with a PhD in therapy expertise, has alexithymia. How do they let people in therapy graduate with alexithymia?
What is wrong with American television? It's all your fault. This is what you've done to us.
Liberal democracy, see? It's beautiful.
But learning to sit with another person and deeply connect and let her sort of help me attach, then it was profound. It was profound.
A lot of crying?
No, a lot of dissociating. A lot of disconnecting, because I had sort of dissociated.
Once you connected, didn't you just...
No, I think what happened to me was... Because I never had problems with intense feelings. As usual, intense feelings...
Screaming or crying?
Yeah, intense feelings are all right.
Yeah.
But as usual, it's the intermediate zone that people have trouble with. And I would feel comfortable, I guess, or safe, sort of dropping into these dissociative states that I didn't even know I had.
How would that manifest itself?
I would like fugue. I would like and time would expand and contract. And I have no idea. And she'd all of a sudden become...
Time distortion. That he had no idea.
Expand and contract. And I have no idea. And she'd all of a sudden become aware, and she'd go, "Time's up." I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Oh, you just left.
Yeah. I'd sort of hypnotic.
Right.
And I think that was the source of my anxiety. It's a guy named Alan Shore that calls those trauma-associated dead spots. And I would fill in as I would get more comfortable, sort of moving in and out of it.
What was the source of the trauma? Like, were you neglected or were you used?
Used.
Abused.
Used.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Narcissism.
Used? Used or abused?
Used.
Yeah, for sure.
Used, for sure. Not abused, just used. What?
Yeah, narcissistic parents. So we have similar things, you and I.
Yeah.
It's weird like that, because that's tricky, isn't it?
It's delicate, and it's submerged, and it's not obvious.
But, it reveals it.
Submerged and not obvious.
Itself in me through codependent behavior.
Absolutely, me too, 100%, because you end up, your whole being becomes about managing them. And, and they demand that.
Right, and you had no choice early on.
Well, you didn't know. Nobody gave you enough what you needed to develop an autonomous self.
Right, but the narcissist... Exactly.
Yeah.
But the narcissist thinks that they're doing it right.
Oh, absolutely. They're doing it for you.
Yeah.
They're doing it for you.
Oh, it's so sad. It makes me choke up. Because that you wander through the world with an incomplete self. Because you were never...
100%.
Right, because you weren't able...
That's
no one
deal.
drew the boundary. Apparently...
No one drew the boundary, and...
No boundaries. They're bonding in their trauma story. It's so boring. Now the boundaries are crossing. Because whose story were you talking about? Dr. Drew or the podcast person? It's all one story now. Because they don't have emotional granularity with their lack of emotional words, alexithymia. They're just spinning in the story now.
And sat there and was present for you. Ever.
Right.
Because they didn't know how.
And they're now blaming. This is a projection. Because his anxiety is so high, they can't stay with the feeling to articulate. So, no one was there to hold space for me. I had improper attachment. It's all someone else's fault. Which means they're gonna continue being a victim.
They didn't know how.
And they still don't. Mine don't.
No, absolutely not.
So, we need to...
We'll have to talk about anxiety more. We'll have to talk about anxiety more. We'll have to talk about anxiety more. But I would say I'm an adrenophile, and I have a strong flight response to stress, which is why I just did the dissociation course. I understand dissociation. Now,
So if you run away from some stress and you dissociate, you can run away. But then you have all this unprocessed feelings in your system. So when you come back, you have to deal with depressing them, putting out all the fires. And then if there's a fire that comes back, then you have to dissociate in advance. That's why you're all time distorted, like Dr. Drew. Or you find other ways, like adrenophilia or OCD.
I did the interview on OCD. We were talking about how these things can lie side by side. So it's a desire to escape. So either you're a workaholic and you go outward into the world, or you can disassociate and you get out of your body that way, or you can put everything into something that you're obsessed with. And when you change your focus with emotional intensity onto this thing that you're completely obsessed with, they're all ways of moderating anxiety, really. We'll have to talk about anxiety more. Or you could say it like this: so much of what we do, we're trying not to feel nasty feelings. It's not nice.
Trying not to feel nasty feelings.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die.
I have a guard
You
up.
take this
for
armor
sure.
off, we
I have
die.
a guard up. For
We
sure.
die.
I have
We
a guard
die.
up for sure.
You take this armor off, we die.
So you can use language for emotional literacy, but you can use language as an armor, as a way to create a fantasy, as a way to dissociate, as a way to distract.
We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention. We misdirect your attention.
And play out the codependence complex.
I must have caused that. 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 I must have.
To feel anxious, it's really not nice. If you feel anxious a lot and you can't control it and it's coming in bursts, it's a very, very unpleasant state to be in. And it can lead to depression because you can't escape it. It's happening to you inside your body. Will the system create an adaptation towards OCD where you have to count the lines in the wall or not step on the cracks or do things with your fingers in order to not feel anxiety? Of course. Do I do things like that? Yes. My last girlfriend that I was with was the first person who noticed, because she's quite observant of meta communication and body language, that I tick a lot. She's the only person in my life who noticed it. Because
here's more of his tics.
Doop-a-doop-a-doop. And then that will be it. She froze. You were staring into the screen and making smacking sounds. Yeah, that's what I do when I'm nervous. You folks don't realize I tick quite a lot. And you'll only notice it if you spend a lot of time around me. But I do weird shit with my head and with my mouth, and I make funny sounds, and I do weird tapping things with my fingers. That's when I said I overcame my social anxiety. It was never it was never fully overcome. Ticky face, ticky head. I've been around people for too long.
Yummy.
His
Just like
anxiety. You could have reasonable anxiety.
For our first birthday that we were together, he bought me a Kindle book and no card. And I tore into him. I didn't want to. It was like I just couldn't help it. Like I was really, I'm very punitive by.
Look how happy she is describing her punitive nature.
Tore into him.
Look at her laugh.
Tore into him.
Is that joy? She tore into him. Look at that giant smile.
I didn't want to. It was like I just couldn't help it. Like I was really, I'm very punitive by nature. I'm very punitive by nature. This is partly like me trying to control it. So I realized what I had done. I felt bad about it, but he got me that year, he bought me a card like the next day. And then the next year, it was my birthday again. And like I had almost completely forgotten about the total like shit show, the total shit fit I had thrown the year before. And then I found out he bought me like a very nice set of earrings and a necklace, and he got me a card, and I was very pleased. But then I realized he told me that he had gone to the jewelry shop 3 separate times, that he'd spent I don't know how long picking out a card for me, and that he was incredibly anxious. He was incredibly anxious giving me the gift. Picking out my gift and picking out my card had brought him no pleasure because he was doing those things to avoid my punishment. He was incredibly anxious. He wasn't doing those things because I had been so delighted when he had given me a card. But if I want somebody to give me a gift because they love me, then if you punish them for not giving you a gift, you're going to get Stockholm Syndrome. He was incredibly anxious, tore into him. You're going to get Stockholm Syndrome.
Because he got tore into, and he didn't know what the map was, so the next time he wasn't sure if he was going to get torn into again, so she dumped her joy of tearing into people, created anxiety into her partner. And she still sort of enjoys it, but she recognized that's not what she wanted, so she has to consciously behaviorally condition her partner, because she's an evolutionary psychologist, or evolutionarists, who actually care about results instead of just research. So what does Brene Brown think about anxiety?
What do y'all think? You! We hate you! We hate you!
And the audience somehow agrees with her. This is the kind of emotophobia, in particular anxiety.
I think we're supposed to befriend anxiety, but I call bullshit. We hate you!
So the research says you need to befriend it. The experts say that there's a benefit to befriend it. She just says bullshit, because it triggers her armor.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die.
Because she has poor boundaries. Poor boundaries is not enough.
Boundaries, the distance that I can love me and you simultaneously. Distance simultaneously. Distance simultaneously.
She doesn't have the proper distance because she dissociates. Or she goes into full-blown lash-out rage.
I was flipping through Instagram, probably during the middle of my anxiety, and I saw this from Liz Gilbert, the writer. You are afraid of surrender because you don't want to lose control, but you never had control. All you had was anxiety.
All you had was anxiety. So she remembered this, and what's her reaction now? Is she going to stick to her word semantic playing with words, or is she going to realize that she's just addicted to control?
It was anxiety.
How dare her? That's like, shame. Truth's too harsh.
Yes or no? Rude. Awful.
She straw manning. She's attacking the messenger. Rude and awful. She's an emotion researcher.
So what is anxiety? An emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, physical changes like increased blood pressure. Feelings of tension, worried thoughts, physical changes like increased blood pressure. Do you want to know what I look like when I'm in anxiety? This is my favorite part of this. There's no knowing. I'm this guy over here.
That guy she identifies with, because he doesn't know what's happening.
I'm like, oh, Rowie, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be okay.
Is this that she doesn't know what's coming? That's why she needs an atlas or a map of emotions to predict social interactions and potential conflict. But if she keeps her armor up, then she's not navigating the territory, then she's sort of always stuck in anxiety.
When Tim asked me that question, I wanted to hit him over the head with a Topo Chico bottle, what was going on there.
So that came later in the interview. But this is her mindset after hearing the question that's coming.
You know, what was going on there? Because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain, than to feel pain, than to feel pain. When Tim asked me that question, I wanted to like hit him over the head with a Topo Chico bottle.
What do you say to the people you meet who are on the third marriage? Their kids don't talk to them, and there are certain things that they have convinced themselves, subconsciously or otherwise, maybe through an abusive upbringing or trauma, whatever it might be, that it is unsafe to feel certain things, right? They do not want someone to drag them into the deep waters of emotions that they've kept under lock and key for so long. I buy it. Like, I get it. And yet, what do I do? Because I've had on this armor for so long.
I'm a researcher.
Isn't that a fair question? I've had this armor. I'm scared of my emotions. I get your argument, but it's too big of an ask. What do I do? It's Brene Brown. She has 500,000 surveys and stuff. Shouldn't she have an answer? And he made the question longer, but I simplified it.
I'm a researcher, and so I'm not a therapist. Like,
Oh my God.
She's not a therapist. She reads a bunch of research, which means her conclusions are just made up. It's not tested in the real world. That's what she opened with.
and so I'm not a therapist. Like, I don't see clients. And if the water's super deep and swift, you need to go through that with a therapist.
That's just saying if the water's really deep, you're crazy. You need help. That's just a nicer way of saying that. If it doesn't work for you, go get fixed. If you're fucked up, go get fixed. No refund on the books.
And get that settled before we work in the organizational way. I would say that it's not serving anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And now the weight of the armor is too heavy. And it's not protecting you, it's keeping you from being seen and known by others. It's not protecting you, it's keeping you from being seen and known by others. There was my response, which I was like, screw you, bring it, screw you, bring it, screw you, bring it.
That's her response. You see his eyes? His is like terror. Or shock. He's just trying to keep up, and he's trying to get his question answered, which isn't really being answered.
You think you can best me? And then it was just one nightmare situation after another until, you're not going to win that fight.
Right.
Because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain.
No!
She just
I don't know how to do that. Do you guys know how to offload pain easier than to feel pain? Then do that.
Yeah, but that's projection. That's what a lot of people do.
That's what she does. I don't know how to do it. Yeah, I want to do it better. That's what this whole meeting is for, to try to offload my pain so I can be free, but I keep failing. She can do it.
But that's what we're all doing. I mean, that's what...
No, I'm not doing it. Has anyone taken my pain? Does anybody know what my pain is after 2 years of every week?
I don't know what your pain is.
I don't do it. But this is her projection. I would argue that maybe 50% at most, maybe less than 50% are offloading pain.
You're not going to win that fight.
Right.
Because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain.
Most people triangulate. They do not offload pain. They find a third party to triangulate. Emotional triangulation, trauma triangle, lots of psychological models of how to hold pain. Only the abusers, aggressive people that are hyper-fast in impulses, they're able to offload pain onto other people. And I admire it. I think it's a boundary violation and it's dehumanizing, but I admire it. I mean, my Nahama is like...
That was a bit more courageous. That was a bit more courageous.
That's offloading pain.
That was a bit more courageous. That was a bit more courageous. That was a bit... This is a difficult conversation to have. This is a difficult conversation to have.
You can't say that either. You can't say that either. You can't say that either. That's
Anything goes.
judgment. That's
Anything goes.
judgment. That's
Anything goes.
judgment.
Those are examples of offloading pain. Scapegoating. This is an example of offloading doubt.
And I just wonder, I don't know what triggered that person. I don't know if she's gonna be okay after. I'm really worked up right now. My nervous system is really high
This
right
is
now.
offloading
I'm really
pain.
worked up.
I'm sorry, you're not being helpful to me right now. Being helpful to me right now. I'm sorry, you're not being helpful to me right now. Being helpful to me right now.
That was in response to a question that she said, I have a question. And he said, well, wait, I don't have a question. I just want validation. I want healing. I don't want, thinking stuff. You're not being helpful.
I'm sorry, you're not being helpful to me right now. Being helpful to me. Like you're attacking me. Attacking me. Like you're attacking me.
So, I'm picking up this nuance because this is an assumption from someone who researched.
Offload pain, then to feel pain. Offload pain, then to feel pain. I think you can replace the armor with something.
You can cover up your pain with ice cream, distractions, addictions, but offloading pain is predatory. That's worth judgment. That's why she doesn't want people to judge, because she's a fucking abuser.
I think it's curiosity is what you replace. You just become very curious about yourself, about the world. Why did I react that way? When Tim asked me that question, I wanted to hit him over the head with a Topo Chico bottle. What was going on there?
You see her instant reaction? That's a little bit of honesty. Her brain is saying, I don't like that question. I want to hit him on the head. That's her
After
armor.
that, I want to get curious.
You take this armor off, we die. We die. We die. You take this armor off, we die. We die. Screw you. Bring it. You think you can best me? Screw you. Screw you.
That's the
Screw
energy
you.
you're feeling underneath her words. Part of her Texas accent, but also based on her
asking,
childhood.
I've been wearing this armor for so long. It's really a big ask to give it up. And then she says, I don't know how to do it. And she said it with so much confidence. That it seems that she knows what she's doing. It's like, wow, that's
her.
Yeah.
She's doing knowing, improving. She dominates you, dominates other people, and proves that she wins and she's right. Now that makes it illusion that she has the embodied knowledge, but all she did was bully people with words and language and posturing and impulses, with hatred. But now she's calling it curiosity.
Do you know what I mean? What is my obsession about this? You just become very curious. Curiosity is really the superpower, because it keeps us learning, it keeps us asking questions, and it increases our self-awareness. There's trauma for all.
If it's increased her self-awareness, then how come her books haven't had anything new? If she's really curious, shouldn't she get smarter or something?
All of us, it's just different levels of trauma.
Yeah.
To escape childhood with nothing is, I haven't met that person yet.
No, I haven't either.
Right. So literally the trauma message in our body is, you take this armor off, we die. You take this armor off, we die. So you protect us at all costs and leave this on. A lot of that work has to be done with a therapist.
At all costs. And it has to be done with a therapist because she has no self-reflection.
That work has to be done with a therapist. You take this armor off, we die. Screw you. Bring it. A lot of that work has to be done with a therapist, because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain. You need to go through that with a therapist.
Look at her focus of her eyes. Isn't it like, you better agree or I'm gonna kill you?
It's the confidence. That's what's blowing me away. Like, I'm a bozo. I know nothing, but I've got so much confidence.
Listen to this part
of voice. It's very convincing.
About hubris. So Sam Vaknin has narcissistic supply, which is kind of confusing. I think if you just relabel hubris as narcissistic supply, it could be easier.
Hubris is an inflated sense of one's own innate abilities that's tied more to the need for dominance than to actual accomplishments. Okay, I'm just telling y'all, I had no idea that there was anything about dominance underneath the hood of hubris. But researchers write, quote, hubristic pride may have evolved to motivate behaviors, thoughts, and feelings oriented toward attaining dominance, whereas authentic pride may have evolved to motivate behaviors, thoughts, and feelings oriented with attaining prestige. However, to the person experiencing hubris, it feels good. They puff up and feel blustery and superior.
Bring it. You think you can best me?
Furthermore,
Screw
the
you.
person experiencing hubris does not really care what we think.
Screw you.
Researchers
Bring it.
found
You think
that
you can best
hubris
me? Screw you.
can increase levels of dominance, and interestingly, dominance, quote, does not require respect or social acceptance. Research led by Jessica Tracy found that, quote, for the narcissist, positive views of the self are too essential to leave to the whim of actual accomplishments.
Why would you give up control of your image when you can bully and dominate people? And you're good at it. If you can offload your pain and you're good at it, I don't blame them. I want that skill. If you can bully people into seeing you as competent, if you can take it by force, why not?
Yeah, but if you look at her comment in context, I mean, one, look, she's a popular speaker. She's getting whatever feedback for fast, thinking fast, thinking slow. She
take this armor off, we die.
That will, help her to be successful in publishing in this, in her career. So she's going to, follow that path. But also in that interview, what she was saying seemed to be is talking about sort of these inner children or these inner tasks. Inner family dynamic of, this inner child that wants this armor. She's saying that this inner child believes that it will die if it drops this armor. She's saying that, okay, in order that
you take this armor off, we die.
I know, but just before that, she's talking about
you take this armor off, we die.
Yeah, but we, I believe, is the inner children. When she's talking about, I think she's talking, at least I interpret it when you played more in context.
I would say it's a protector part. Inner children don't care about dying.
No, the multiple protector
parts care about dying.
Protector personalities.
Persecutor parts don't want to die. Yes.
Right. And so I think what she's also saying there, again, in kind of, I understood more in the context, is that to work with this as a therapist, that a therapist will, maybe this is right or wrong, but she's implying that the therapist there with what is it, positive regard,
I really want to see more cynicism from you guys. I really want to see more cynicism from you guys. I really want to see more cynicism from you guys. I really want to see more cynicism from you guys.
Accept
I really want to see more cynicism from you guys. I really want to see more cynicism from you guys.
And that it's
Are you triggered?
A way to get
We're not even having much of a fight today. This is a mild meeting.
I
I'm trying. that
I don't know
if
what
one
triggered that person. I don't know if she's gonna be okay.
that one
with
is
this.
that the therapist will accept this baggage with the positive regard, that the patient is able to offload the blame, offload the pain, and that's what she's saying, that if one doesn't have enough.
Why are you speaking for her?
Because I'm trying to get something useful out of what
Does she remind you of your mother or something? Why are you defending her so much?
I'm not defending her.
You don't think that she has enough love bombing from all her other fans that you have to jump in and defend her? Why are you defending her? What's it to you?
I don't look at this as defending her. I don't agree with your premise.
Okay, how many people think that David is defending her? Or does anyone not agree that he's not defending her? Does anyone think that he's doing no defense at all?
Negatives. No, double negatives. Now you're just messing with words right now. Come on.
Okay, several people thought that you were defending her, so you have other people.
I'm in that. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand what she's saying, but I think that she's, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, but you're interjecting your own.
Even
point of view,
Maria
so-
thinks that you're defending her. No one
That's
thinks
bad?
that. Everybody sees you defending her.
Okay.
That's not worth consideration?
Of course it's worth consideration.
So how are you considering it?
I'm taking in the feedback.
That's not consideration.
Well, how would all of you like me to consider it?
Show consideration. Do we need to define consideration?
I understand your point of view, and I politely disagree.
That's
with
not
it, but
consideration. That's a defense.
so
That's
what-
more evidence
what-
that you're defending, which is what everyone said. Feels like you're defending.
You said you
Do
understand.
you have the
point of
capacity
view,
for
but-
consideration? Maybe that's a easier answer or easier question. Do you even know what consideration is? Do you even know why consideration could be useful? What's the purpose of consideration? Are you willing to consider that consideration could have a useful need? Would you be willing to consider that consideration could be useful?
Yes, I'm interpreting it from your point of view, from everybody's point of view, that how my statements could be interpreted as defense, and I agree that that is a valid.
Have you gone to too many NVC programming nonsense? That's not the question. That's not what we're asking. That's not the bridge we're trying to build.
Mm-hmm. You asked if I'd consider it. I'm trying to. I'm sorry that I'm not responding in the way that you.
It's not about the way I want. I want you to use your brain to show evidence that you're considering the feedback. If all you're saying is like, you guys have the right to have your opinion, that is not consideration. That's a script. Because I've heard that script. And it's not consideration, because it's not. There's no energy considering other points of view.
Other than my changing my opinion or changing my behavior to match what you desire, I'm not certain what more you want me to do with the consideration.
Well, what might be happening is you're flooded. So this is what happens with flooding. Let's see if you identify with this and consider this audio clip on flooding.
According to the Gottman Institute, flooding is, quote, a sensation of feeling psychologically and physically overwhelmed during conflict, making it virtually impossible to have a productive problem-solving discussion.
Also, same pointer is this.
Because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider. Because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider. Because when we're triggered, we can't think, we can't consider.
Or maybe your mind went blank.
Scares the shit out of me to just truly not know what I'm gonna say next. Scares the shit out of me to just truly not know what I'm gonna say next.
So there's a term, flooded. It's out of the book.
One of the worst patterns that I brought to my marriage from my family was, get back in here and fight with me right now. Growing up, we did not take breaks during fights. No one ever said, hey, this is no longer productive and we should take a time out before something bad is said or someone gets their feelings hurt. Our strategy was get louder and meaner until you win or someone else is crying.
That's the pattern she grew up with. That's the pattern she's continuing now. When she gets flooded, she fights.
Our strategy was get louder and meaner until you win or someone else is crying. When I first married Steve, in the middle of a heated argument, he would say, hey, let's stop and take a break. I was like, what are you talking about? At some point, I think I realized that stopping the fight scared me. Fighting together seemed less painful than hurting alone. The research also helped me realize that it's not just Steve who gets overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed too. The difference is our strategies. He shuts down when he's flooded. I think I lash out, which is disastrous. I don't think I understood before I studied this that
she lashes out. She knows her buttons. She knows her patterns. It's continuing on the videos.
I thought flooding always caused shutting down. The haywire needle always meant like all systems shutting down. But I think when my needle goes haywire, I just lash out. It's a terrible combination. Now, when I get flooded, I'm as likely to say timeout as he is. This is a good thing because according to Gottman, chronic flooding sets us up to dread communicating.
You dread communicating like Johnny Depp, but you also dread consideration and talking out things because that creates anxiety. Things have to be pacified as quick as possible. That's more of the codependent stance. Her stance is more of an abuser stance, which you just bully her way through. But a codependent gets flooded, then they have to go pacify. They have to go into scripts because you're flooded.
Seemed less painful than hurting alone. Our strategy was get louder and meaner until you win or someone else is crying.
Well, like, is there a way that I could present this, my opinion, without you interpreting it as defending her? Is that?
But it wasn't just me. It was several people.
All of you.
That's
not answering the question.
If all of the group the majority of the group is seeing you as defended, how can we give you an answer when all of us have slightly different interpretations of you?
I understand. I'm trying to say if I'm not trying to defend her, how can I better express this? Without
Is there a possibility that your
defense?
shadow, your unconscious, could be defending her? Wouldn't that be an easier explanation than duping all of us?
Well, no, because I don't agree with her, immediate reactions. I don't agree with. I mean, I think that many of the things that you've been pointing out, we've been discussing through this, past hour, are very accurate of her triggers, and I'm trying to tease out something that she's saying, which I think at least seems from the conversation as being overlooked by this, attacking of her and her style and her voice.
What's overlooked? What point wasn't considered by us?
Well, again, I think that in context that what
point
she's saying with the we
was overlooked by us. That's your argument, right?
What? Yes, I think the
You're
point
trying
is
to bring up a point that's overlooked. What point was overlooked by us?
How to utilize or what shifting blame or shifting pain onto the therapist means.
She didn't say shift it onto the therapist. She said, if you're flooded and you can't deal with it in your arm or whatever, go get it fixed in it by a therapist. That's what she said.
That's where I think that if you look at that in the longer context with therapists, and then she talks about the blame, that she's talking about applying that or shifting that onto the therapist, not onto people in general.
She didn't say that. Nowhere in that video clip she said that.
That's
the shifting the pain was not related to the therapist. I put those next
That's
to
where I
each other.
disagree. That's where I disagree.
You disagree that she meant that shifting pain offloading pain was going to be moved to the therapist, so she's going to offload pain to the therapist? Was that she?
I think it's everybody. But I think that in that specific clip that she was referring to the therapist.
I spliced that. I edited that clip.
Okay. Yeah.
So the offloading pain was not next to the therapist. I put it next to the therapist.
Okay, maybe. Okay, then I misunderstood from the way it was edited.
Well, that's why.
No,
I'm
not
clarifying.
from the way it was edited. Why are you blaming Deef? This is such bullshit. You started at fucking like 2 hours ago.
Because he can't be wrong.
This contrary. Look up fucking, if you don't know, you sound very educated. You sound like a fucking Californian for sure. You're educated, very educated. You probably know what the word contrarian means. That's being you for 2 hours. You're just taking the opposite standpoint from the rest of us for some unknown reason. You admitted off the top that you didn't do any homework. You didn't read the book. You didn't watch the videos. You don't even know what you're fucking talking about. I don't know why you come in here so hot. What?
He's owned that. He owns that he's talking from pure speculation.
Why? Yeah, it's offensive.
Exactly why. Yeah, that is true.
It's offensive, but then to like say, oh, well, it was something that was brought up 20 minutes ago in Deef's edited videos. Bullshit. Bullshit.
This is part of our group. Our group has to sort through abusers' gaslighting. So we have to build this muscle of discernment. And people have to make a tangible argument based on evidence, not just based on doubt and speculation, because that's a narcissist gaslighter is going to use more doubt, more gaslighting than you. And if you learn from academics, all they're doing is knowing and proving, just making up evidence to make them seem smart.
Yeah.
And then abuser is just going to take advantage of that.
The point of view, like you said, I understand your point of view. I don't agree with it. So from your perspective, what is what was my point of view or the group's point of view from your perspective? How do you see what that point of view is that you disagree with?
The statement that I'm defending her.
So that's our point of view?
Well, that's the majority. That's what Deef took this poll, I guess. I mean, or was asking about.
So it's a point of view, but is it related to something which is accurate or it's not accurate, that assessment?
Well, as I said, I'm not trying to intentionally, what I feel is my motivation is not jumping to her defense or defending her. I'm trying to tease out some other fact amidst this, this other argument and this, what seems to be sort of, superficial aspects of her and her presentation.
Right, like maybe the denim jacket and this and that and the other stuff.
Now, right. What you just defined as what you're trying to do, didn't you see that's equivalent to defending her?
I mean, I guess I can't.
If you're saying that she's getting attacked with one of her superficial stuff, and you're pointing out something, that's defending her. What you just defined is defending her. We're not saying defending her was bad. We're just summarizing so that we can keep up with all this stuff. If you're just adding words that essentially equals defending her, why are you arguing this worthless position?
Because it's about what's the motivation for the defense, I guess. To me, when you say defending her, it's implying that there is a fundamental, that I'm agreeing with, all of her positions. I'm defending her for some other.
You don't have to defend someone that you agree 100%. I don't have that.
No, I didn't say 100%. Just to me, I mean, this definitely is something for me to consider more. To me, it came across as not defending every single position she has, but defending other aspects of her behavior, her statements that I'm not trying to take on that mantle, that I'm simply trying to.
You don't have to take on the mantle. If your behavior fits defending her, we're labeling it with a emotional granularity, which is part of today's theme. That's why it's precise language that's universal, that the group can have a consensus on. Not everyone has their, instead of this, everybody has their own slightly definition with 10 words and 10 words here, so nobody's speaking the same language. We're not playing that game here today, because that is just confusion. You're just...
Well, put it another way.
The question still lies, though, David. Are you...
And we suppose we agree that you're not defending her, and suppose that's the case, you're not defending her, then what does defending someone look like? Like, what sort of things do you do when you do defend someone?
I mean, fuck the defense. The question is still, like, it goes back to the question Beef asked earlier, which is, are you triggered? It starts there.
It's
if you're
likely
triggered,
there. We were trying to be polite to
yeah.
you, David, not
Right.
try to explore your trigger. We gave you the bridge of defense. You're getting more triggered on the defense, which is more evidence that you're triggered.
Right.
But since
And
you're
we know
new,
that.
we
We can
don't want to
see
go
it.
probe into your wounds.
Right.
But you defending, the definition of defending is totally stupid.
So that's why I wanted to make it really simple to say that, hey, look, you said you're not defending. I suppose I agree with that. Then tell me, what does defending someone look like? What do you have to do to defend someone?
But that's not the focal point, though, because he's
No,
going to
it's
defend
for
himself
Malaka.
again.
Just let him say it. You're saying you're not defending. Okay. Then what would someone defending look like?
Well, I guess what I'm saying, I mean, I need to think more about what it would mean in the broader sense. What I was trying to do is to tease out just from what she's saying, you know, in of that specific statement of hers without the rest of this baggage of her or else, and see if there was anything useful there. So in that sense, defending that specific statement of hers without defending, without defending her. So I'm
So you're trying to remove all the context of the rest of her presentation, everybody else's perspective, to get to some purity level of interpretation.
When you're being precise about words, I guess the difference was that I was saying I was defending the statement and not her. And when you asked me if I was defending her, I still think I'm not defending her. I'm defending that statement.
Well, she's made the statement that you're defending. I would do a shortcut to say you're defending her statement or her. Who cares? Why? What does that nuance matter?
To me, it matters.
I know.
To me, the precise words that...
If no one understands your precise words...
I agree that there was an ambiguity, but I'm saying that to me, I don't agree with a lot of what she's saying or doing. So to ask me, am I defending her? I immediately say no, because I don't.
We didn't say, are you defending her? We said, why are you defending her?
Because I'm trying to understand the meaning of that one statement of hers. If there's something that I can learn.
Is she in this room that you could ask her directly?
No.
So if you don't have her to work with it, you have the group here and all of the group's interpretations. Or you can try to ask your projection of her ghost that isn't here.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you work with a ghost when you have live human beings with active brains with different perspectives to try to gain some sort of knowledge?
Because I'm trying to interact with the people and to see if bring the conversation. I mean, so maybe I'm dominating or saying I'm controlling
the conversation to what?
To that specific statement that she made, instead of comments about her and her behavior and these various
so you want to bring the conversation to that one statement. Which one statement really caught your attention? The offloading of pain? Was that it?
Yes, it was the we and the offloading of pain.
That. Let's see. Because I picked that because I thought that was key.
So much easier to offload pain than to feel pain. Offload pain than to feel pain. So much easier
to offload pain than to feel pain. Offload pain.
Okay, that statement.
Yeah, and the material leading
You
up to
couldn't read
which,
it. You didn't like taking it literally. Honestly, that's the way the video sort of presented, from what I remember.
Again, maybe I misunderstood the way that it was edited, which I'm saying, but when played more of the context, I thought there was something more there than that simple statement. I'm not trying to be argumentative.
It was a passing statement. I'm telling you from editing, from having to cut down 8 minutes down to 2 minutes. It was just a passing statement that I thought that was a reveal. That's why I highlighted it. It was a leak. It was a personality leak where people share their true selves through a humorous side comment. She wasn't actively trying to advertise that because that's embarrassing. My interpretation. Your interpretation is that she didn't mean it? Is that what?
No, I'm not disagreeing. I think she meant it. Completely agree with that.
So what's the point you wanted to tease out? That you think that we didn't address fairly?
I thought that I understood from the longer clip when you played the actual video, and maybe that it was edited and I didn't realize it was an edit. I thought that she was talking about therapists, and then she immediately went into the comment, or very soon went into the comment about
when Tim
pain.
asked me,
and that in that sense that she was talking about using the therapists to offload the pain.
No, the end part is my edit. That's not the natural pacing. It came out somewhere here, I think. Pacing.
You think you can best me? And then it was just one nightmare situation after another until you're not going to win that fight.
This, or it's right
because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain. Offload pain than to feel pain. I think you can't replace the armor with something. I think it's curiosity.
There was no therapist mentioned until a little later in the armor. This is more of the context of the natural flow. Does that satisfy you, David?
Yes.
Because we wanted you to consider, and we wanted to consider your opinion, so we're showing you how consideration works. Because we let you take the floor, and we let you redefine defending, and then we took our stance of saying, we can't remember what the fuck you said, we're just going to say you're defending what you said. And you can have your definition, that's fine. And then when you rewatch the videotape, and then now it seems like there's not as much dissonance. You were just caught on that at the end, where I was just framing the two things. But I framed the therapist and the offloading pain as that's how she's abusive. And that was part of the pattern of the earlier videos today, to show that she's bullying people, and she's bullying herself with words.
Gaslighting.
So much easier to offload pain than to feel pain. Offload pain than to feel pain.
Because it matches this.
Fighting together seemed less painful than hurting alone.
I need for you to be wrong, and I don't want you to go. It's about my need.
Fighting together seemed less painful than hurting alone.
Because it's so hard to illustrate, I hate you, don't leave me. Makes sense to someone with abandonment terror. Makes sense to Brene Brown. But to someone codependent or an avoidant, like, you're hating me and you're sending contempt down my throat. You want me to leave. Then you try to stab me when I leave. Yeah, that's what Johnny Depp was dealing with.